Retro Road Test, 1994 Jeep Cherokee vs 1994 Land Rover Discovery. The early 1990s marked a period of significant transformation in the four-wheel drive market, with SUVs beginning to appeal not just to agriculturalists and outdoor enthusiasts, but to suburban families and professionals alike. Amidst this changing landscape, two names stood out on British forecourts in 1994, the Jeep Cherokee and the Land Rover Discovery. Each vehicle carried with it a distinct heritage, the former representing American ruggedness and compact 4x4 sophistication, and the latter exuding a quintessentially British off-road pedigree. In this comprehensive road test, we explore how these two legends fare against one another on UK roads, under UK conditions, using the specifications available to British buyers in that pivotal year. Styling and presence. The 1994 Jeep Cherokee, known internally as the XJ model, retained its iconic boxy silhouette, a style that dated back to its 1984 introduction but remained resolutely purposeful. Compact dimensions and squared-off edges lent the Cherokee a utilitarian charm, with the 7-slot grille and angular body lines offering a visual promise of trail-conquering ability. Though not luxurious in its appearance, it looked well-proportioned and honest. In 1994, the UK received the facelifted version with body-colored bumpers and subtle trim enhancements, giving it a more civilized presence in urban settings. The 1994 Land Rover Discovery, by contrast, was a much newer entrant in the market, having launched in 1989. By 1994, the Discovery had become more refined, particularly with the introduction of the TDI engine and SE trim levels. Its tall roof, alpine windows, and offset number plate gave it an unmistakably adventurous profile. Designed to slot in below the Range Rover but above the utilitarian Defender, the Discovery combined practicality with a level of comfort and style that broadened its appeal to lifestyle buyers. Where the Cherokee was compact and unobtrusive, the Discovery felt more commanding and distinctive, standing taller and exuding off-road confidence. Engines and performance. In the UK, the 1994 Jeep Cherokee was most commonly offered with the 4.0-litre inline-six petrol engine, a pushrod unit producing around 190 bhp and 225 pound-foot of torque. There was also a 2.5-litre diesel option, sourced from VM Motory, but it was neither refined nor particularly popular due to its agricultural noise and modest output of around 114 bhp. The 4.0-litre engine, by contrast, gave the Cherokee a lively performance edge. Mated to either a 4-speed automatic or 5-speed manual gearbox, it could dispatch the 0 to 60 miles per hour sprint in under 9 seconds, impressive for a vehicle of its kind. However, fuel economy was a serious concern, with real-world figures often languishing in the mid-teens miles per gallon. Land Rover's Discovery, on the other hand, came with the 200 TDI and later the improved 300 TDI engines by 1994. The 2.5-litre four-cylinder turbo diesel produced 111 bhp and 195 pound-foot of torque. Though less powerful than the Jeep's 4.0-litre petrol unit, the Discovery's engine delivered strong low-end torque, ideal for off-roading and towing. The 300 TDI was also more refined and slightly more efficient, regularly returning 25 to 30 miles per gallon in mixed use. Performance was not sprightly, with 0 to 60 miles per hour taking upwards of 14 seconds, but the engine's flexibility and economy made it well suited to British buyers with long distances and countryside adventures in mind. On-road handling and comfort. On tarmac, the Jeep Cherokee surprised many. Its unibody construction, rather than the more traditional body-on-frame approach, contributed to more car-like handling characteristics. The ride was firm but composed, and cornering was relatively taut for an SUV of its era. However, the short wheelbase and basic suspension setup led to a choppy ride on uneven roads, especially in the rear. Steering lacked precision, but was lighter and more direct than that of many competitors. The Discovery, being built on a ladder frame chassis derived from the Range Rover Classic, offered a more traditional 4x4 ride. Its long travel suspension soaked up rough roads and potholes more effectively than the Cherokee, making it more comfortable on long-distance journeys. However, the trade-off was less precision in the corners. Body roll was pronounced, and steering was slow and vague, though acceptable by off-roader standards of the time. The commanding driving position and excellent visibility made it a popular choice among countryside dwellers and school-run parents alike. Off-road ability. Here, the playing field tilted in favor of the Discovery. With permanent four-wheel drive, a low-range gearbox, and a locking center differential, it was designed to tackle the rough stuff with confidence. Ground clearance was generous, and approach forward/departure angles were excellent. The Discovery could wade, climb, and crawl with the best of them, and was right at home on muddy lanes, boggy fields, or rocky inclines. The Cherokee was no slouch either. With Jeep's part-time command track or full-time select track systems, depending on trim, low-range gearing, and decent approach angles, it was surprisingly competent off-road. However, limited articulation and the unibody structure meant it felt more fragile when truly tested. Its compact size could be an advantage on narrow green lanes, but in deep ruts or loose surfaces, it often struggled to match the Discovery's poise and capability. Interior and practicality. The Jeep Cherokee's interior was a tale of form following function. Materials were durable, but plastics felt hard and slightly dated even by 1994 standards. The dashboard layout was straightforward, with clear instrumentation and large switches. Seating was firm, and rear space was tight for adults, though acceptable for children or occasional use. Boot space was reasonable, but the high loading lip and narrow tailgate opening detracted from overall practicality. In contrast, the Discovery's interior was more spacious and better thought out. It came with seating for 5 as standard, with optional third-row inward-facing jump seats in some models. The cabin felt airier, aided by the large glass house and high roof. Materials were more varied and the design more modern. By 1994, SE models featured niceties like electric windows, sunroofs, and improved trim. Boot space was generous, especially with the rear seats folded, and the flat floor made loading easier. However, build quality in the early Discoveries was hit or miss, with some owners reporting rattles, electrical gremlins, and poor fit and finish. The Cherokee, though simpler, often aged more gracefully. Reliability and running costs. Reliability was a mixed bag for both contenders. The Jeep Cherokee's 4.0-liter petrol engine was known for durability and long life when properly maintained, but ancillary components, such as cooling systems and electricals, could be temperamental. Fuel costs were high, and parts availability in the UK, while improving, was still not on par with domestic brands. The Discovery's 300 TDI engine was robust, and many examples racked up high mileages with basic servicing. However, early models suffered from rust issues, especially in the boot floor and sills, leaking sunroofs, and problematic electrics. Labor costs could be high, though parts were widely available, and plenty of independent specialists catered to the Land Rover brand. Insurance for both was relatively high due to their classification and value, but the diesel Discovery had a clear edge in terms of fuel economy and long-distance usability. Verdict: choosing between the 1994 Jeep Cherokee and the Land Rover Discovery ultimately comes down to priorities. If you valued on-road composure, compact dimensions, and the power of a torquey petrol engine, the Cherokee was a compelling choice. It blended American muscle with urban friendliness, and while not luxurious, it delivered respectable performance and reliability. However, if your priorities leaned towards space, off-road prowess, and running cost efficiency, the Discovery was a more versatile proposition. It may have had its foibles, but its ability to traverse the countryside, tow a caravan, and transport the family in relative comfort gave it broad appeal. In summary, Jeep Cherokee, 1994 Pro's strong petrol engine, car-like handling, compact size. Cons: poor fuel economy, dated interior, limited space. Land Rover Discovery, 1994 Pro's excellent off-road, spacious interior, economical diesel. Cons: build quality issues, slow performance, vague handling. For the urban adventurer with a thirst for style and power, the Cherokee shone brightest. But for the rural family needing a dependable workhorse with room to spare and a taste for the wild, the Discovery remained the undisputed king of the hill in 1994 Britain.